I'm a public school teacher carrying $52,147 in student debt, and every single month I run the same brutal calculation. Rent, food, bills, the loan payment. Something always gets sacrificed, and it's usually the groceries. The financial pressure had become unbearable, so I'd applied for a corporate role that would nearly double my teaching salary. I was prepared to walk away from the only career I'd ever wanted, simply because staying had become unaffordable. Then one morning I opened my loan servicer's website and saw a figure that made no sense. 0.00. Somebody somewhere had wiped out my entire balance. A complete stranger. Attached to the transaction was a message. This payment is an investment, not a gift. Continue teaching. You'll understand in 30 years. For weeks I tried to uncover who'd done this and why. What I eventually learned reshaped everything I thought I knew. Not only about my job, but about what it truly means to invest in another person's future. Before I get into it, I'm curious. Has anyone ever helped you in a way that altered the course of your life? Drop your story in the comments. And if tales of unexpected kindness are your thing, go ahead and subscribe so you catch the next one. Now here's how it all unfolded. I was raised in a small Kansas town where college wasn't really part of anyone's vocabulary. My dad worked construction, my mom cleaned houses, and neither of them understood why I'd want a university degree when I could just start earning right after graduation. But I'd always been drawn to learning, always gravitated toward children, and teaching felt like the only path that made sense. So I borrowed. Federal loans, private loans, anything available. I attended a state university, lived on practically nothing, juggled 2 part-time jobs, finished my bachelor's in elementary education, and then went back for a master's because the salary increase seemed worth the extra debt. I thought it was worth it anyway. By graduation, with my first teaching contract finally in hand, I owed $52,840. At 22, the number felt distant, theoretical. I'll chip away at it, I told myself. I'm doing what I love. Fast forward 5 years, and at 27, that same number had become a noose tightening around my throat. 3 years ago I relocated to Denver to teach at Oakwood Elementary, a solid school in a comfortable middle-class neighborhood. The students are wonderful, my coworkers are supportive, and I genuinely love what I do. But my salary sits at $46,000 a year before taxes. After taxes, after the loan payment, after rent on my cramped studio, after utilities, groceries, and gas for my aging Honda Civic, I'm left with roughly $200 a month, assuming nothing unexpected happens. No car trouble. No illness. No emergencies. I skip nights out with friends. I haven't taken a vacation in years. My wardrobe comes from thrift shops, and ramen shows up on my plate more often than I'd like to confess. Every month, like clockwork, $450 goes toward my loans, an amount that barely touches the interest, let alone the principal. At that pace, I'd still be paying these off well into my 50s. And yet I still loved the work, shaping young lives, being someone these kids could look to for more than just textbook knowledge. Take last September, for instance, when a new boy joined my classroom. His name was Isaac Park, 8 years old, quiet to the point of disappearing. He'd retreat to the back row and rarely speak. His file mentioned a recent parental divorce. He was living primarily with his father, spending alternating weekends with his mother. The school counselor had left a note. Keep an eye on Isaac, he's struggling with the transition. Those first weeks, Isaac was practically a ghost in my classroom. He never raised his hand, never volunteered, and at recess he'd sit by himself on a bench while the other kids ran around. His academic performance began to slip badly. It wasn't a question of ability, I could see real intelligence behind his eyes, but he simply wasn't putting in effort. Assignments came back half done. His attention would drift mid-lesson. Late one afternoon in September, I picked up the phone and called his father. Mr. Park, this is Maddie Chandler, Isaac's teacher. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Is Isaac in trouble? No, not trouble, but I'm concerned. He's struggling academically, and he seems very withdrawn. I'd like to help, but I need to understand what's going on at home. A heavy silence followed before Justin Park finally exhaled. The divorce was finalized in August. Isaac's having a hard time with it. He was angry at first. Now he's just sad. I don't know how to reach him. Would it be okay if I spent some extra time with him after school? Tutoring, but also just talking, being a stable presence. You do that. Of course. That's what teachers do. Miss Chandler, I thank you. Yes, please. Anything that helps. So 3 afternoons a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I began staying late with Isaac. There was no extra paycheck involved. Tutoring outside the school day wasn't part of my job description. But I wasn't going to watch a child fall through the cracks just because his parents' marriage had fallen apart. Initially, our sessions focused purely on academics, reading, arithmetic, handwriting. He lagged behind in everything, not from lack of capability but because he'd quietly given up trying. Why does it matter? He asked one October afternoon, eyes fixed on a math worksheet. Why does what matter? School, homework, any of this. Everything's falling apart anyway. Nearly broke me. Isaac, I know things are hard right now. I know your family is going through changes. But school matters because you matter. Your education matters. Your future matters. And I'm here to help you no matter what's happening at home. Okay. He glanced up, eyes carrying more weight than an 8-year-old should. You're not going to leave? No, I'm not going to leave. I'm your teacher. I'm here for you. Bit by bit, Isaac began to thaw. Not about the divorce, not yet, but about smaller things, his favorite video game, a recipe his grandmother had taught him, a new puppy his mother had brought home after moving out. As he opened up emotionally, his academic effort returned too. Assignments started coming back finished. Test scores climbed. By December, he was reading at grade level. By January, he'd surpassed it. Mid-January brought parent-teacher conferences, and Justin Park's slot was scheduled for 6 p.m. He arrived right on time, drained but visibly hopeful. Mr. Park, Isaac is doing so much better, I told him, sliding his progress reports across the desk. His reading has improved 2 grade levels in 4 months. His math scores are up significantly. And socially he's making friends. He's participating in class. He's smiling again. Justin's eyes welled up. I know. I see it at home too. He's talking more, laughing. He actually told me about his day yesterday. That hasn't happened since the divorce. He's a great kid. He just needed some support. Miss Chandler, I know you've been staying after school with him 3 times a week. I know that's not part of your job. I know you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart. His voice broke. You saved my son. When everything was falling apart, you were there. You gave him stability, hope. You reminded him that someone cares. My own eyes stung with tears. I care about all my students. Isaac just needed a little extra help. If there's anything I can do to thank you, anything at all, please tell me. I managed a smile. Just keep being there for him. Keep being a good dad. That's all he needs. He nodded, though something in his face suggested he wasn't satisfied with that answer. February slipped by, then early March arrived. On a Tuesday, my car finally gave out, transmission failure. With a repair estimate of $100, I simply didn't have lying around. I had it towed, resigned myself to bus rides for the foreseeable future, and trudged through the rest of my day. That afternoon, Justin came to collect Isaac and spotted me waiting at the stop across from the school. Miss Chandler? Car trouble. Yeah. Transmission shot. I'll figure it out. Where do you live? I can give you a ride. Oh, you don't have to. Please. It's the least I can do. I accepted. Isaac sat quietly in back, absorbed in a book, while I rode up front with my bag in my lap, making small talk with Justin, who mentioned he worked as a software engineer at a startup, 6 years in, long hours but a good team. When he dropped me at my apartment, I thanked him repeatedly and grabbed my bag, not realizing until later that a folder had slipped out, containing my application materials for a corporate training position with a company called Summit Solutions, which trained employees on internal software systems for $78,000 a year. I hadn't mentioned the application to anyone, not my principal, not my colleagues, not even Julianne, my closest friend, who taught 4th grade down the hall. But now that folder was sitting somewhere in Justin's car, and I had no idea whether he'd noticed it. On Saturday, March 15th, I woke early as usual and logged into my loan servicer's portal to check my balance before scheduling that month's payment. I expected the same depressingly familiar figure, $52,147, give or take. Instead, the page loaded to show 0.00. I stared, blinked, refreshed. Still 0. My first instinct was that it had to be a glitch. My second instinct was dread at how long it would take to untangle. I called the servicer the moment they opened, 8 a.m. Eastern, which meant 6 a.m. for me, and waited with the phone pressed to my ear. Great Lakes Student Loan Services, this is Monica. How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling about my account. There's an error on my balance. It's showing 0, but I owe over $52,000. Let me pull up your account. Can I have your account number? I rattled it off. Okay, Ms. Chandler, I'm showing that your loan was paid in full on March 14th. Yesterday, electronic transfer of $52,147. My hands trembled. That's impossible. I didn't pay it. No, ma'am. The payment came from a third party, a trust fund. What trust fund? I don't have a trust fund. The payment came from an entity called the 2054 Educational Foundation. I don't understand. Who would pay off my loans? I'm not able to disclose that information, ma'am, but there is a note attached to the payment. Would you like me to read it? Yes, please. A brief pause followed as she located it. It says, for Maddie Chandler, this payment is an investment, not a gift. Continue teaching. You'll understand in 30 years. Signed, a friend from the future. I couldn't get a breath in. Can you read that again? She did. I thanked her, hung up, and just sat frozen on my couch, stunned beyond words. Someone had erased over $50,000 of debt in a single transaction, and asked nothing in return except that I keep teaching, promising understanding would come in 3 decades. I called Julian immediately. Maddie, it's 6 a.m. What's wrong? Someone paid off my student loans. What? All of them. $52,000. Gone. Paid in full. Who? I don't know. It's anonymous. They left a note saying it's an investment and I'll understand in 30 years. A long pause. Maddie, are you sure this is real? It's not a scam. I called the loan servicer. It's real. The money cleared. My balance is 0. Oh my God. I don't know what to do. Who would do this? I don't have rich relatives. This doesn't make sense. Maybe it's someone whose life you changed. A former student. Jules, I've only been teaching for 5 years. My oldest former students are like 12 years old. They don't have $50,000. Then their parents? Maybe. But why would they be anonymous? And why that weird note about 30 years? I don't know. But Maddie, this is a miracle. Don't question it. Accept it. I can't just accept $50,000 from a stranger. Yes, you can. Because whoever did this wants you to have it. They want you to keep teaching. So keep teaching. Still, I couldn't leave it alone. I needed answers. Over the weekend, I dug into the 2054 Educational Foundation online and found absolutely nothing. No registered nonprofit, no public record. Just a name attached to a trust fund dated 30 years into the future, which matched the note's strange promise of understanding in 30 years. Was that a coincidence? I started listing suspects. A former student's parent, but none of the families I knew had that kind of wealth. Oakwood was solidly middle class, not affluent. A random philanthropist, but why target me specifically when countless teachers were buried in similar debt? Someone who already knew I was thinking about quitting, since the note's phrase, continue teaching, implied insider knowledge of my plans. That last possibility stopped me cold. Only one person outside of Summit Solutions' HR department knew I was contemplating leaving. And that application had been sitting in Justin's car. Monday morning, I went to school determined to push the mystery from my mind and focus on my students. That resolve lasted until lunch, when Principal Roberts called me into her office. Maddie, can I talk to you for a minute? I followed her in, stomach nodding, wondering what I'd done wrong. I got an interesting call this morning, she said. From Summit Solutions. They said you interviewed with them last week for a corporate training position. Heat rushed to my face. Yes, I applied. I'm sorry, I should have told you. You don't need to apologize. Teachers are allowed to look for other jobs. But Maddie, I need to ask, are you leaving? I don't know. I love teaching. I love this school. But I'm drowning financially. That job pays almost double what I make here. I don't want to leave, but I don't know if I can afford to stay. She nodded slowly. I understand. Teaching doesn't pay nearly what it should. And you're one of the best teachers I have. If you leave, it'll be a huge loss for our students. But I can't ask you to sacrifice your financial security for this job. I haven't decided anything yet. Well, let me know when you do. And Maddie, whatever you choose, you have my support. That evening, as I tidied my classroom after dismissal, a knock sounded at my door. Justin Park stood there. Mr. Park, is everything okay? Is Isaac all right? Isaac's fine. He's at my mom's house. Can I talk to you for a minute? Of course. Come in. He stepped inside, closed the door, and stood somewhat stiffly amid the alphabet posters and student artwork lining my walls. I took a breath, ready for the question I'd been working up to for days. It was you, wasn't it? I said. What? My student loans. Someone paid them off 3 weeks ago. $52,147. Anonymous donor. A trust fund called the 2054 Educational Foundation. I watched him closely. It was you. He didn't deny it, didn't even register surprise that I'd pieced it together. He simply nodded. Yes, it was me. Even having half expected it for a week now. Hearing him say it aloud left my legs weak, and I sank into my desk chair. Why? I asked. Justin, why would you do that? He pulled over one of the tiny student chairs and lowered himself into it, looking faintly ridiculous in the small seat but also strangely exposed. Because you saved my son. His voice cracked on the final word. Maddie, when Isaac came to your class in September, he was broken. The divorce destroyed him. He was failing school. He stopped talking. He stopped caring about anything. I was terrified I was losing him. He wiped at his eyes. And then you stayed after school with him 3 times a week. For months. You weren't paid for it. You didn't have to do it. But you did. Because you cared. Because you saw a kid who needed help and you helped him. That's my job. No. Your job is to teach second grade curriculum from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Everything else, the after-school tutoring, the phone calls home, the extra attention, the emotional support, that was you. Your kindness. Your dedication. He held my gaze. By December, Isaac was doing better academically. But more importantly, he was doing better emotionally. He was happy again. He was talking to me. Laughing. Being a kid. And it was because of you. You gave me my son back. Tears slid down my face freely now. So when I saw the job application you left in my car, he continued, I understood. You were leaving teaching. Not because you don't love it, but because you're drowning in debt. You were being forced to choose between your passion and financial survival. How did you even have that kind of money? I asked, still struggling to process it all. 3 weeks ago, my company was acquired, the startup I've been working at for 6 years. We got bought out by a larger tech company. The acquisition closed on February 14th. Okay. I was one of the founding engineers. I had equity in the company. When it sold, my shares were worth about $4.2 million. After taxes, I netted around $2.8 million. I had no words. $2.8 million was a figure I couldn't even fully picture. I don't need $2.8 million, Justin said. I need enough to live comfortably, to give Isaac a good life, to save for his college. Maybe $1 million total. The rest, Maddie, it's just numbers in a bank account. But for you? $50,000 was the difference between staying in a career you love and leaving it. So I thought, what if I could remove that obstacle? What if I could make it so you could choose to teach instead of being forced to leave? Justin, I can't accept this. It's too much. It's already done. The loan is paid. You can't return it. The servicer won't accept repayment. The trust fund was set up specifically for this, and it's irreversible. But why didn't you just tell me? Why the anonymous donation? Why the cryptic note? He gave a faint smile. Because if I'd come to you and said, I want to pay off your student loans, you would have said no. You would have been too proud, too uncomfortable. This way, by the time you figured out it was me, the deed was already done. You couldn't refuse. He wasn't wrong. Had he asked first, I absolutely would have turned him down. And the note? I asked, about understanding in 30 years? That's something I want to explain. But Maddie, first I need to know. Are you angry with me for doing this without asking? I considered it honestly. Angry wasn't the word. Overwhelmed, confused, deeply grateful, yes, but not angry. No, I'm not angry. I don't know how to process this. Justin, you changed my life. You gave me back my freedom, my choice, my future. How do I even begin to thank you for that? You don't thank me. You just keep teaching. Keep being the person who stays after school for kids like Isaac. Keep making a difference. That's all the thanks I need. I drifted home that night in a fog. $52,147 simply erased. For 5 years that debt had hung over every choice I made, where I could afford to live, what I could afford to eat, whether a car repair would break my budget, and now it was gone. I called my mom. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Something incredible happened. I told her everything, Isaac, Justin, the loan payment. She went quiet for a long stretch before speaking. Honey, do you remember when you told us you wanted to go to college? Yeah, you and Dad tried to talk me out of it. Because we were scared. We didn't have money for college. We didn't understand that world. We thought you were setting yourself up for failure. I know. But you went anyway. You took out those loans. You worked your way through school. You became a teacher. And Maddie, we were wrong. You didn't fail. You found your purpose. And now someone's telling you keep doing it. Keep being a teacher. Keep changing kids' lives. But Mom, it's so much money. So what? He has it. You need it. He wants to give it. Accept the gift, Maddie. Accept it and keep doing what you were meant to do. The next morning I called Summit Solutions. Hi, this is Maddie Chandler. I interviewed for the corporate training position last week. I'm calling to withdraw my application. I've decided to stay in teaching. Thank you for the opportunity. Then I walked straight to Principal Roberts' office. I'm staying, I told her. I'm not leaving Oakwood. She smiled wide. I'm so glad. That weekend Justin asked me to coffee, wanting to explain the note properly. We met at a small cafe near the school, him with black coffee, me with a latte I could finally justify buying. The note, I said. Why did it say I'd understand in 30 years? He smiled. How old are you? 27. And you'll probably teach until you're at least 57, right? Maybe longer. Probably. That's 30 years. Maddie, think about how many students you'll have in 30 years. If you teach 20 kids a year for 30 years, that's 600 children. 600 lives you'll touch. And your impact doesn't stop there. Those kids grow up. They become parents, teachers, leaders. They pass on the values you taught them. Your influence ripples forward. He paused. This isn't a gift. It's an investment. I'm investing in the 600 kids you'll teach over the next 30 years. Kids like Isaac who need someone to believe in them, someone to care. In 30 years, when you look back at your career, you'll see hundreds of lives you changed. And you'll understand. You'll understand why I did this. I wiped my eyes. But what if I don't live up to that? What if I'm not as good a teacher as you think I am? You will be. Because you already are. Isaac isn't the first kid you've helped, and he won't be the last. You're exactly the kind of teacher who should be in the classroom. And now you can be. Without the financial stress. Without the constant worry. You can just teach. That was 6 months ago. Now it's September again, a fresh school year underway. I have a new batch of second graders, 20 bright-eyed 7 and 8-year-olds depending on me to teach, challenge, and help them grow. Isaac's in 3rd grade these days. I catch glimpses of him in the hallway, waving, grinning, clearly thriving. My student loans are history. My car runs fine. I've moved into a slightly roomier apartment. Nothing extravagant. Just a bedroom finally separated from the living space, which feels almost indulgent. I'm still earning $46,000 as a teacher, but I'm no longer drowning. I can finally breathe. Standing in front of my classroom each day, I find myself thinking about what Justin said, 600 kids across 30 years, 600 opportunities to matter. I think about that note. You'll understand in 30 years. I don't fully grasp it yet. Only 6 months removed from receiving this gift, but I'm starting to. I notice I'm a better teacher now, more present, more patient, more inventive, simply because financial panic no longer consumes my energy. Maybe that's the real investment Justin meant. Not just in my future students, but in the teacher I'm becoming now that I'm free to fully commit to this calling. Sometimes I picture what my life might look like 30 years from now if I'd taken the corporate job instead. 57 years old, financially secure, Perhaps retired early with a healthy 401k. A nice house, maybe some travel, maybe a few hobbies. But number 600 students. No kids who needed me the way Isaac did. None of those breakthrough moments when a struggling reader finally sounds out a difficult word. No hand-drawn cards declaring me the best teacher ever. No parents crying with gratitude for saving their child. No life built around meaning. Perhaps that's exactly what Justin understood when he wiped out my debt, that some people are built for work that matters more than it pays, and that those people deserve someone willing to invest in them not as charity but as a bet on every life they'll go on to touch. Isaac's mother sent me a card last month. Dear Ms. Chandler, I don't think we've ever properly met, but I wanted to thank you. Justin told me what you did for Isaac last year, how you stayed after school with him, how you helped him through the worst time of his life. I was so wrapped up in my own pain during the divorce that I didn't see how much he was struggling. Thank you for seeing what I couldn't see. Thank you for being there when I wasn't able to be. You changed his life. You probably saved it. I will never forget that. With gratitude, Jennifer Park. I shared the whole story with Julian a few weeks back, and she cried through most of it. Maddie, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I still can't quite believe it happened. Do you ever worry that you owe him something? That you have to live up to some impossible standard now? Sometimes. But then I remember what he said. It's not a gift. It's an investment. And investments aren't about obligation. They're about belief. He believes I'll make a difference. So I just have to keep doing what I was already doing. Keep teaching. Keep caring. Keep showing up for the kids who need me. You're going to change so many lives, Maddie. I hope so. That's all I want. To look back someday and know that I mattered. That I helped. This morning I arrived at school early, something I do regularly now, not out of obligation but genuine preference. I like having the room to myself before the day's chaos begins, like the quiet preparation time. I was writing the day's agenda on the whiteboard when Principal Roberts knocked. Maddie, can I talk to you for a minute? Of course. She stepped in, shut the door behind her. I wanted to tell you something. This is confidential, but I think you should know. We had a donation to the school this week, anonymous $100,000. The donor specified it should go toward teacher supplies, classroom materials, and support for students in need. That's amazing. Who donated it? I don't know. It came through a trust fund, the 2054 Educational Foundation. I went completely still. What? Does that name mean something to you? I nodded slowly. Yeah, it means something. Justin hadn't only invested in me, he'd invested in my entire school, my colleagues, every student walking these halls. After classes ended, I called him. The donation to Oakwood. That was you, wasn't it? He didn't deny it. Yes. I wanted to. Maddie, you're not the only great teacher at that school. And your students aren't the only kids who deserve resources. I had the money. The school needed it. It was an easy decision. You're changing lives. You know that, right? No. You're changing lives. I'm just removing obstacles. Same thing. Maybe. He paused. Maddie, Isaac asks about you all the time. He wants to know if you're still his teacher. I keep explaining you teach second grade and he's in third, but he doesn't care. You're his teacher forever as far as he's concerned. I smiled. Tell him I'm still here. Tell him I'm still teaching. Tell him I'm not going anywhere. I will. And Maddie, thank you for staying. I'm 27 years old with 30 years of teaching stretching ahead of me. 600 students waiting, countless lives still to be shaped. I have no idea what the world will look like 3 decades from now, whether I'll still be at Oakwood or somewhere else entirely in a different city, a different chapter. I don't know how teaching itself might transform or how I will. But I know one thing for certain, 30 years from now, I'll look back at March 15, 2024, the day a stranger erased my student debt, and I'll finally understand. I'll understand that Justin Park didn't simply rescue me from financial ruin. He rescued me from a lifetime of wondering what if I'd stayed in teaching, how many kids would I have reached, how many lives would I have shaped? Now I'll never have to wonder because I stayed. I'm teaching. I'm pouring 30 years into 600 children. And when I eventually retire and look back across my career, I'll finally understand completely what Justin meant. This was never a gift. It was an investment. And the return, measured not in dollars but in transformed lives, in futures reshaped, in children who grew up knowing someone truly believed in them, will be immeasurable. Has someone ever helped you in a way that reshaped your entire life? Or pushed you to choose meaningful work over a bigger paycheck? Share your story in the comments below. If this tale of teachers' unexpected generosity and investing in the future resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like it. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next.